Have you ever made yourself a cup of coffee and then you get distracted with something only to come back to it later and find that it's cold? Well, I do this all the time. So I wanted to find a way to solve the problem that plagues my mornings because as a guy who roasts coffee, it's pretty embarrassing to be drinking lukewarm coffee all the time. Now, there are thousands of products out there that are built around solving this problem, and entire companies are even built around keeping your hot drinks hot. And not only that, people are paying top dollar for some of these name brand mugs that claim to keep your coffee warm all day long. So one day while I was drinking my lukewarm coffee and reviewing my business finances for the month, I had an idea. I'm Patrick, this is Charlie, and today we're going to be making a coffee mug that warms your coffee using fire. Now, I don't have any connections to any manufacturers who can help me build like a fancy ember mug or even like a Yeti, but last year I did start making pottery, and so I figured I could probably make something. Plus, if it's handmade, I can jack the price up even more. So I got to work drawing up some designs and doing some research, until I finally landed on something I could make myself. It involved making a mug with two different pieces, one of which would be on the top and would hold our coffee, and the other would be on the bottom and hold our heat source. And hopefully this would allow us to keep our coffee warm all day long. So I headed to my pottery studio and threw two cylinders that would make our mug. And after letting them dry for a day, I came back to trim and connect them. Surprisingly, they join together really easily, but I still need to make an opening in the bottom compartment to be able to allow us to access and put in our heat source. So I punched some holes and cut an opening to allow us to access the heated compartment. Lastly, we would need to add a handle so that we wouldn't have anyone burning themselves. We don't need any lawsuits on our hands.
So sue me. No, don't.
And just like that, our mug was ready for the kiln. And a few days later, it emerged in one piece, ready to be glazed. Now you probably thought to yourself, he's making a mug that he's gonna light on fire, so it's probably gonna be like orange or yellow or red. Well, you're wrong, because I blew it instead.
I'm afraid I just blew myself.
Anyway, after applying the blue underglaze, I coated it in a clear coat and sent it into the kiln one last time. And a couple days later, it was done. And I think it turned out pretty well, actually. But the real test isn't whether or not it can hold coffee and look good, it's whether or not it can keep our coffee warm. So to put it to the test, I tried to light a little fire in the bottom compartment using some coffee stirrers and paper and, well, leaves too. I was getting the fire to start just fine, but every time the flame would go inside the mug, it would just go out. There wasn't enough oxygen to keep it going. I tried over and over and over again, stuffing more paper and leaves and all kinds of shit in there to try to get it to light. And after about an hour of trying this, I just had no luck. There just wasn't enough airflow to keep any sort of fire burning inside. If there was some good news from trying to light this mess of coffee stirrers and paper and leaves for like an hour, it's that despite all of that lighting and relighting, the coffee somehow still stayed warm. It's still warm. Surprisingly.
It's a good fire though.
I mean, it does work. Kind of. So I knew that I was pretty close to making this work. I thought about going back to the drawing board and maybe adding a little chimney or drilling holes in the bottom, something to get the airflow moving in the bottom container. But then it hit me. It was right there all along. I didn't need fire. I needed an ember. So I went to the hardware store and picked up a bag of charcoal. Now, because the bottom container didn't have enough airflow, I couldn't really light the coals in there. So I put them in another mug and lit them and waited for them to turn into hot embers. And it was going super well and things were really starting to heat up. Until they got a little too hot and cracked the mug and melted the table and almost burned down my apartment. So I moved the coals into a metal pan and we were back in action. Once I had some really hot embers, it was time to move them from the pan and put them in the mug and see how warm they could make our coffee. Which at this point was super cold from waiting for all the coals to burn. Charcoal coals, man, they take forever. So I stuffed as many coals as I could in the bottom chamber, stuck a thermometer in the coffee, and waited for the temperature to rise. Still going, after almost burning down the table. Okay, it's cool to the touch. The bottom is hot. We're up to 80 degrees. Ooh, the bottom is very hot. Okay, it's still a little cold. So this is even better than an amber mug because an amber mug, you can't blow into it and heat it up. Oh yeah. I don't know why it's not going up. Our temperature is inside. 120, 130, 140, 160. Oh my gosh, it's really hot in there. 180, it's still climbing. 200. Not translating super well to the coffee. But we got to 100 degrees. Drop down to 90 again. Fuck! The temperature was moving up, but it was getting stuck at around 90 degrees or so. So I decided to stuff a few more coals in there and then try to close the opening to the bottom chamber by sticking it against the wall of the pan. And with those little adjustments, I managed to get the final temperature to 110 degrees Fahrenheit, which is kind of close to being considered warm. So now that we have our fancy handmade fire-powered coffee mug, all that's left to do is list it for sale and watch the money roll in. And with that, I think our money problems are a thing of the past. Alright, that's pretty much it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.